Parker, and I use they, them pronouns.
Hi, I'm Mike, and I use he, him pronouns.
And welcome to
the Graphic Novel Podcast. All right, welcome this week. This is a show where we discuss graphic novels, zines, and other comics. We throw in a bit of real life.
We talk about queer issues, race issues. Sometimes we talk about death, and sometimes we talk about relationships.
That's right. We have a new episode every Friday, like today. If you like the show, give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcast app that you listen to podcasts on.
Make sure you subscribe so that every week, as soon as this episode goes live, it pops right up into your feed, and it's there for you when you're ready.
That's right. And you can interact with us on Twitter, Facebook, and Insta. And if you like to leave us a voice message, you can do that if you go to anchor.fm/graphic novel podcast.
Most importantly, make sure that you are sharing us with your friends. That is how we get the news out.
Share it, if you carrot. All right.
Like the vegetable?
Yeah, carrot. Let's just start out and say, how are you doing first off, Parker? This is almost week and a half in after surgery.
I'm okay.
You're okay.
I'm okay. I'm getting there.
Yep.
I don't know if I'm getting there.
You're getting there.
I'm getting there.
Do you think it's taken more of a toll than you thought it would?
I really didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
It didn't really matter to me.
Yeah, right? I understand. Yep. It was just important to get it done. And we did. And
we did.
Well, you did. I was there.
You've been working very hard.
Anyhow. But during this and the coronavirus, the world has just exploded. I mean, we're going to...
Well, let's just kick it off and say Black Lives Matter, and we support the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yes. And, and there's really nothing we can say.
I mean, there's a lot that we should say, really.
Yeah, our platform's not big enough to do much.
I wish that it was bigger and that our message was being spread wider, but, we will get there. But maybe, but I still think it's important to say something and to let, especially our white listeners, know that they need to stand up and speak out and not just speak out, like not speak to people of color, but talk to your white racist friends, because we're all benefiting from white supremacy, and it's really important that we acknowledge that and sit down and shut up and listen when Black people are speaking. Don't discredit what their experiences are, because you really have no fucking clue.
Yeah, nope, I don't. I have no idea. Could only imagine watching videos. It's some of this stuff is horrendous.
Yeah, terrifying.
And then you've got all these people, hundreds of thousands of people around the world peacefully protesting, and you've got these police who just don't get it, and they're just violently, and it seems to have calmed down somewhat. They seem to have backed off in most places, but the first week was just horrible. And Seattle was one of the worst places. They were just fucking violent as hell.
Yeah, I had a friend who was down there and said they were just peacefully chanting and singing, and suddenly there was tear gas in their face.
Yep, because they're afraid for their lives, those poor police.
Yeah.
In the riot gear and flash bombs and all this other shit.
And you've heard about them taking the Proud Boys over and saying, no, we don't want to look like we're playing favorites.
Yeah, so you need to go in, because we're going to be tear gassing, and
then cutting off the using I wanted to say Zippos, but those are lighters. Using
zip ties.
Cutting the zip ties off with X-Acto knives. X-Acto knives, is that what they're called? Straight blades, essentially. And slicing protesters' hands and wrists in LA. Like requiring stitches, not just, little scratches or whatever, like deep cuts.
They don't care. They're just like snapping them off with the blades. And you got cut. So well.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of things. So we could probably talk about that forever. But
so, one thing I do want to say is, put your money where your mouth is. Donate to Black Lives Matter's causes. Read books by Black people. Listen to their voices. Support Black artists. Support the Black people in your community. They're the Black small businesses.
Yep.
The comic book shops owned by Black people. Find them and support them.
Yes. And speaking of, we Destiny City Comics in Tacoma, Washington. Black-owned business, and we've already ordered some comics from them. So some graphic
Please
novels.
go to Destiny Comics, Destiny City Comics in Tacoma. You said, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Go support those Black businesses. They need us. They've always needed us, but now is beyond the time. And do it. Just do it. Don't think twice about it. Support those businesses. So one of the things that I posted on social media recently, talking about Black Lives Matter and being anti-racist. It's not enough to say that you're not racist. You need to be anti-racism. Don't say things like, I don't see color. We're all one human race.
Yeah, yeah.
Because while
that's still white privilege stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And the response from waste-free Marie is, while we're all human and biologically the same, the systemic oppression of Black people makes my experiences vastly different from yours. To say that you don't see my race means that you don't see my oppression, my marginalization, or the discrimination I'm facing daily. This diminishes my suffering and excuses you from your responsibility to be anti-racist. You must see race in order to combat racism. And that was something for a long time that I personally didn't see. I thought that it was that I wasn't racist because I said I don't see color, and that's just another form of racism. It doesn't.
Yeah, you have to see that there are Black people too, and you have to see that you're white and they're Black, and you have something that they don't, or vice versa.
Well, it affords me privileges that they don't have.
Right.
And so, I don't know. I think it's important that we have these conversations.
And it's all white people, and it's not us versus them or rich versus poor. And that's what people want. They want you to say that the poor the poor white person says, "Well, I'm white.
I don't have anything.
I don't have anything. What makes them any better? Why do I have?
I'm poor.
Yes.
I don't have.
Yes. Well, you're still white, and you still won't necessarily get pulled over and killed just because
of your skin color.
Exactly.
And that's the key. There is that. Okay, your life is hard. Yes, that's nobody's saying that your life can't be difficult, but that your skin color is not the reason for it.
Exactly. I can't imagine there was wherever it was I just read that the boy jaywalking, and they throw him down and handcuff him for jaywalking, and even the police chief was said that that's not okay.
Yeah,
but still, it comes from the top. I don't give a fuck. It comes from the top. If there's not somebody at the top saying we don't do this shit and we do something about it when it happens, then it's a culture that just keeps going on and on.
Yeah, and it's not. I mean, it's only gotten worse with the protests and stuff. And
yes, they're doubling down and tripling down on these. And then, of course, goes all the way to the very top of this country, who's the biggest douchebag ever.
Yeah.
So anyhow, let's move on from that, because I don't know what else we could really say about it. I mean, just Black Lives Matter, and
follow, if you, I know it's hard if you don't have the money, especially right now, it's hard. A lot of people are out of work. You don't have the money to donate, even if you would want to. You still want to work to fight racism. Do it with your social media. Start following people of color. Start following Black people. Retweet, raise their voices. Call out your white friends when they're being racist on social media. Call out other white people in groups. I see it all the time in these community groups, just this rampant racism. And you're white, you have the privilege that you can stand up and say something without being an angry Black person. So, because that's how it's painted. You can't even have a civil conversation. Black people can't even have a civil conversation online a lot of times, because they're just painted as just an angry Black person. So they just can't just have a civil conversation. No, they're having civil conversations. They've been having civil conversations for a long time. And now is not the time for them to be civil, because honestly, they shouldn't still have to be doing this work. They shouldn't. Yeah, and we put so much burden on them. And, don't ask your fucking Black friends to educate you. Don't fucking do that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I see that all the time. And it's not even just that. It's anything. Somebody will tweet something. They're like, "Oh, show us proof." And people are like, use your fucking Google and do it yourself. Just fucking Google this exactly what I just said, and
the
it's
information
there.
is out there. It's readily available to anyone.
I've done
that
it.
would want
I am 100% guilty of this.
Yeah.
To you all the time. I've done it a lot less. I've started to learn my lesson that when you want me to learn something, you want me to learn. You're not going to teach me, and I understand.
Honestly,
I understand.
Sometimes a lot of
people are lazy. That's why.
Well, most of the time when I tell you to go Google it, it's because I've already told you 10 times.
Yeah, maybe. Anyhow, all right. Thank you for listening. All right. All kinds of news this week. First off, 2020 Eisner Award nominations are in, and a bunch of books that we have already read are nominated this year. Let me see if I can find a few of them. Let's see real quick. Best limited series. Nope, these are going to be. Oh, I just read one. I'm in the middle of reading right now. Ghost Tree. From IDW, they released a free copy a couple of days ago because it's been nominated. So I'm reading that, and that's really good. Best publication for early readers. I don't see anything in there for kids, teens. Penny Nichols. Best publication for teens. Penny Nichols by M.K. Reed, Greg Means, and Matt Weigel. We read that.
Yeah, that was one of our early books, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was good. That was good. Oh, here's another one. Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me by Mariko Tamaki and Rosemary Valero O'Connell. Yep, that was a good one too. Those are both for best publication for teens.
Wow.
Let's see what else we got. There's under best reality based work, they called this Enemy by George Takei, Justin Eisinger, Stephen Scott, and Harmony Becker. Guess what? My Solo Exchange Diary Volume 2.
What?
By Nagata Kabi is also best reality-based work. That one we're reviewing today. Let's see.
No, it's Volume 2. We're not reviewing Volume 2.
We're doing both of them. We're reviewing both of them as one.
Oh, I thought it was one that came after this.
Oh, you might be right. This is Volume 1. You're right. That's Volume 2. But we're reviewing...
same author.
Yes, the same.
And it's the same concept.
Mm-hmm. Best graphic album, New, Bottom Feeders by Ezra Clayton Daniels and Ben Passmore. Let's see. Best graphic.
Another amazing book. Yeah.
Best graphic.
These are great.
Best graphic album.
I agree with these people.
Bad Weekend by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. It's another one. Clyde Fans. I didn't read that. I love Clyde Fans, The Story by Seth. I haven't read that yet. I've read a lot of them. I'm sorry, Seth is not as bad as the other two.
I have no I have no way of knowing that information, but the other two are so low on my list that
yes, I'm very disappointed.
He gets pulled down quite a bit just by associating.
Chester Brown, we've already discussed him like our second show, and then Joe Matt, who I've loved, came out and said some stupid things. So, and the three of them, along with Seth, were buddies going back to the Toronto area. Back in the 90s.
But Seth doesn't really have a social media.
Seth is different too. Seth is also married and has a life and puts out books on a regular basis.
I like that you acknowledge the other two don't have a life.
And he puts out books on a regular basis. He's made a career out of it, whereas these other guys are just, I'm not quite sure. It's I don't know.
But again, the association, they are.
I agree, but they don't live near each other anymore.
I don't know what that means.
I mean, just because somebody was an asshole 10 years ago doesn't mean they're still an asshole.
Seth?
Yeah, I'm just saying. It doesn't. I don't think he was then. I think even reading Chester Brown's book, he seemed to disagree with a lot of what Chester Brown said. But Chester Brown was able to turn it around so it looked positive for himself. Remember?
Gee, I'm surprised.
I'm just looking. I don't see anything else that we may have read. Oh, yeah. The best writer for Penny Nichols, for Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me. Mm-hmm. Best writer artist. Nope, none of the ones that we read. Yeah, there were a lot of books. Again, this Ghost Tree that I'm reading right now, they've got best penciler, they got best writer, best book. They're in for a lot of under best penciler, inker, or pencil or inker team. Laura Dean keeps breaking up with me. A lot of really good books that I'm really happy and proud that we chose a lot of great books our first year doing this. I
Yeah.
mean, we haven't even. I mean, we're months away from couple months away from hitting a year.
Are you patting yourself on the back?
No, I think we're doing really good picking good stuff to read. You know, I'm serious.
I agree.
I'm serious.
I have a list to share too when your news is ready. When your news is done.
Oh, the news will never be done. The news will never be done. I have a lot of news today. I don't know. There's probably some more other things here, but I can't find anything else. But another thing,
we prepare really well, really thoroughly for the show.
We do. Okay. For far too long, symbols associated with a character I co-created have been co-opted by forces of oppression and to intimidate Black Americans. This character and symbol was never intended as a symbol of oppression. This is a symbol of a systematic failure of equal justice. It's time to claim this symbol for the cause of equal justice and Black Lives Matter. That's Jerry Conway, the co-creator of Punisher.
Ah.
He worked behind the scenes, and he got a bunch of artists, some young artists who have no experience in the comic industry that want to break in.
Nice.
And he's got 4 different designs out there now. If you go to customink.com, you can look for BLM Skulls for Justice. And there's 4 different t-shirts that have different Black Lives Matter sayings and designs with the Punisher logo. So fuck all those 3%ers and all those assholes, the police that use that Punisher logo for their own. That's bothered me for years.
Yeah, Nate Powell had a good article with some graphic or comic panels thrown in there too.
It's online. You can find it.
Yeah,
it might be on his site.
I would guess so.
But yes,
I don't think I went through.
I bought one of these. I bought one that says Black Lives Matter. It looks really good. And all of these were they had to hit a certain number, like 20 or something, in order to be funded.
Like a Kickstarter kind of
Yes. The one already has 1,900 sold.
Yeah, that's great.
But they're all selling. So
and then his proceeds are going to Black Lives Matter.
Yes, the proceeds are going to Black Lives Matter. And this is a guy we follow Jerry Conway on Twitter, very outspoken against Trump and everything anti-Black Lives Matter shit. You know, so
he speaks out against.
Oh, he speaks out against people who are speaking. Well, he's pro Black Lives Matter. So,
all right, and I've got a list here that I want to share.
Alrighty.
From CBR.com, 15 Black creator-owned comics that are essential reading. Starting with Bitter Root. Why don't they have the artist posted right here?
I don't have drums.
I know, it's okay. You like to me, but that's not a sound. No, these are good books. It's supposed to be a positive thing.
It is.
See, there we go. There's your drum roll. I can't find the author.
Okay, just read the titles.
David Rock. Okay, we'll just go through. Okay, Bingo Love.
Okay, great book.
That was an awesome book. Excellence. Daymen. Some of these look really interesting. That one looks like vampires.
Yeah.
The March trilogy, which we also read.
We read the book 1. Yep.
Yeah. Right. Definitely an important one to read right now. Black/Black AF. And Tribe. And then The Wilds, which is also a queer book, queer author.
Yeah, we were trying to find some, because it is Pride Month, and we were trying to find some Black queer books.
Yeah, we tried this month to find a variety of across the spectrum or umbrella of queerness. So we're trying to kind of spread the love out. And then after the death of George Floyd, I would have rather have read only Black queer authors. But we had already made these plans. So
and it's and some of the books you can't just get. Some of these, like we did order one of the books, and it's going to take several weeks to get here because there's not many copies around.
Yeah. So, but start out, checking with your Black owned comic book shops too, and because I'll bet that they can order them.
Probably if they're available, but the one
Yeah.
wasn't available even from the publisher.
Yeah. These are not just queer books. These, like I said, are just Black independent creators. Is Nana the were spider? Oh wow, that one looks interesting. Werewolf / spider kind of thing. Hot comb, which looks very cool.
I think that was on the Eisner list.
Oh yeah,
I thought it was.
Maybe. I'm trying to just hot comb. No, it doesn't say. It doesn't say that. Prince of Cats.
That article is not brand new.
This article that I'm reading from?
Is it brand new?
Relatively new, I thought.
Okay.
But they may not say that about it anyway. American Carnage. Tartarus.
Yes. Hot Comb is from Drawn and Quarterly. It's under Best Short Story.
Here's another one that we've read. You have actually read. I haven't finished it. Upgrade Soul.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Which is a app. You can download it as an app on your phone and read through it, which you actually talked about on one of our episodes. Very cool. Elements Fire.
I ordered Elements Earth, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's an anthology, I believe. And Elements, they were both Kickstarters, I believe. And I ordered the one. It's not out yet. So
this one does say it was nominated for an Eisner Award.
Yeah.
I wonder why it's just Elements Fire.
Because the new one.
Because it's a group of comics all working together on the.
They're all working. I think the concept is it's fire related. Something like that. And the Earth one and
the next one little. I don't know if it's a cover or it's just a snippet out of the book, but it's a very cool drawing of a tiger. And
I believe they're all Black creators.
Yeah.
In the whole book.
Oh, all of the anthology, okay, cool. All the elements.
Yep.
Very cool. I'm feeling kind of funky at the moment. Just a heads up.
Okay.
So if my words are nonsensical or something, then just sorry.
I'll keep talking.
Sorry, listeners.
That's what the drugs will do to you.
Drugs are for.
These are painkiller drugs for a reason. They're not just.
I just had surgery, people.
Yeah, we talked about that at the beginning of the show.
They don't care.
Anyhow,
I mean, they care.
There's other books too. We Bottom Feeders.
That was the 15. I'm done.
Bottom Feeders that we read. My Black Friend. The Bingo Love was great. March.
I really love. I really
Attica.
Love Bingo Love.
Stand at
big. God,
Stand at Attica.
Stand at Attica. Yeah. Oh, that was
Big Black. Stand at Attica.
That's right.
These are all Black related, not all Black creator, but the stories are.
Was a white.
That one was
telling.
Yes, but it was a story about a Black man that he was involved in telling the story. So it was kind of his autobiography. But
it was a biography.
Yes, but he told the
he wrote it.
he told the story to someone.
I know, but most biographies are told. No, not necessarily.
So anyhow, there's a lot. We've reread a bunch too because that's one thing. If you've listened to our show, we really try. We try to push people of color, Black people, queer
marginalized
communities. Excuse me, women. All of these. We throw in some other ones that are really good. But we're really trying hard to
but I mean, it's not just for the show
books.
either. Exactly. It's not just for the show either. It's because that's the kind of thing that's the kind of stuff we enjoy. We make an effort to look specifically for that stuff sometimes.
Yes.
But it's because that's what we enjoy.
Exactly.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Just you can say what you need. All right. Friends, welcome to another review segment on the Graphic Novel Podcast.
I love it. It's great.
This week, we have 2 books. We have my Lesbian Experience with Loneliness, and my Solo Exchange Diary, both by Nagata Kabi. Well, why don't you give us a little bit about the book?
I'm just going to read off the back. It's a very quick, two sentence.
All of it is. Even her bio is 2 sentences.
I wonder if there's more about her in Japan.
Probably, but it's kind of hard to find.
Yeah. 28 years old, no confidence, no direction, never had sex. The candid tell-all of a young woman's struggle with depression and sexuality that has taken the internet by storm.
Nagata Kabi is a manga artist best known for her autobiographical comic, My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness. The end. That
so doesn't do her justice.
So there's an article on medium.com by Rob Hutton from November 2019. It's called My Artistic Experience with Nagata Kabi. He says that she's a very atypical manga artist. For one thing, she publishes her work on PixIV and other social media platforms outside of the world of demographic-oriented anthology magazines that spawn most of the manga, which makes it over to the West. Her work is also unusual in that it's autobiographical, a genre experimented with by some of manga's pioneers, but mostly pushed out of the commercial space. She writes from a brutally honest, marginal perspective. She's a young, socially maladjusted woman who struggles to adapt to the world of work and social relations. So much of the Western reception for Nagata's first memoir focused on its depiction of Nagata's lesbianism. It's often paired with the first volume of My Brother's Husband, the manga, which confirmed that Anderson Cooper loves muscle-bound Canadian men. But her real concern is on the other, is about experience and loneliness. And that's really what book one is about. You find this young person, 28, you said, who at 28 has never had sex. Never had sex. I don't know when she understands that she's a lesbian, when she comes to that grip, or has she always known it, or is it?
She does talk a little bit about, I mean, it wasn't like a realization. It was like, she looks at men's bodies and she's like, oh, they're naked. And she looks at women's bodies and she's like,
oh yeah,
oh, look at how beautiful, look at the curves and so they're so soft. And so it wasn't like an all of a sudden thing. It was like kind of, this is just the way I am.
Right. Which
I think is kind of how all queer people are. I can't pinpoint a time where I was like, yeah, I suddenly realized,
Right.
I just, and honestly, I didn't even know what it was, but then you look back and you're like, oh yeah, that wasn't me. That wasn't me, wanting to be, I had a crush on that person. It wasn't
right. And that's what I think a lot of, I haven't read a lot of men's stories like that, but a lot of women's stories seems to be that, like watching a movie or something like that, and they realize that person that they really liked in that movie, it was a crush, and it was a.
And I think a lot of that comes from the way that people are socialized. Boys often are socialized growing up as you shouldn't be, friendly. Boys are socialized that they, you're not supposed to hug other
punch
boys.
Each other,
the
high five.
The homophobia is rampant, and
until you get in sports and you smack each other on the ass.
Right, that's acceptable.
Exactly.
But only in that form.
Exactly.
And so I think that a lot of that comes from that. Could because be. Girls, I should say people who are socialized as girls, are brought up, allowed to have a more intimate relationship.
Yes. Girls are allowed to hug
with.
Exactly.
Right,
That's okay. Even as adults, it's always been socially acceptable that women can hug, but men are not allowed to hug. They have to shake hands.
Right. I mean, it's but it comes from childhood, right?
Well, sure, but as adults, that's
how often do you see, unfortunately, and I think I mean, I hope that it's happening less, but it certainly was something in my childhood that if you saw two boys hugging, it was considered
Mhm.
disgusting, and it was, you know, like parents would like shove them apart or whatever.
If they were
like,
little kids, it's different.
and
But
then
as soon as they get to
and then the teasing, right? Oh, you're hugging
Mhm.
hugging him. You must be gay.
Yep.
So I think that a lot of it comes from that's I feel like a reason why you hear those stories from people who were socialized as girls, because we were raised with the allowance of that intimacy
Yep.
between friendship.
Yeah.
Um,
And it also is a cultural thing because
well,
I was
yeah,
brought
that
up
too.
I was
yeah.
brought up in an Italian family who always kissed. We kissed our
That was the
grandparents,
weirdest thing.
kissed our grandparents, kissed aunts, uncles, everybody. You know, it was just a thing. Um, and that's also something that you know, here you're thought of as a loser if you stay with your parents past 18 or after you're out of college or whatever.
Yeah, but like in New York City, my friend lived with his parents until he moved out with his now wife. I mean, in his 30s.
And that's common in Europe. In Italy, they stay home until they're ready to go.
Well, and not even, but like in New York City, you can't afford necessarily to move out of your parents' house.
Exactly.
So, yeah, and I mean, similar with like she said, she wanted to. She had a part-time job. She wanted to. She had a million yen saved up. She wanted to move out. She had enough money that she could afford to live on her own, but nobody would rent to her because she didn't have a full-time job.
But that's what she was told. She was told.
Well, she doesn't.
She was told for 5 years. She believed that if you don't have a full-time job, you can't get an apartment. She didn't. She never looked into it because people just told her that, but it wasn't true. It wasn't true, but that's what she believed. Now,
that's not what I remembered.
Yeah, but she has other issues too. She has an eating disorder.
Yeah.
Which is when she gets this job at it's like a grocery store or something.
Yeah, it looked like she was a store clerk.
And she would be, she would just cashier, and all of a sudden she'd have to run. She'd run to the back and she'd like binge on food in her locker. And
if she knew the food was sitting there,
if it was there, she had to eat it. It just sat in her head and just didn't go away.
Which ends up her losing her job because she can't control those urges.
Mm-hmm. She's not reliable.
So she wasn't reliable, and they had to let her go.
Yep.
And you know, that not let her go, but I mean, they had to fire her, and they didn't have to, really. What should have happened is that
but they didn't know what the problem was.
Right, I know.
Mental illness.
I know.
She didn't know.
I wish we cared enough about people to help them through things instead of just saying, well, you're not doing the job, so goodbye.
Bigger companies do have these programs. Now, they probably don't always use them the way they should. You know, there's employee assistance programs where you can go and get help, financial help, which sometimes distracts from people from their jobs, but also mental help for, you know, maybe it's a parenting problem or your older parents that you're taking care of or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And these things are just weighing on you and you're not doing your job properly, or you're taking too many days off, and you need help figuring out or coping.
I mean, we have to put an emphasis on mental health in this country that we have never, ever
We have
done.
to take money away from the police departments, and we have to put more money towards mental health and social systems.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then this is Japan. Then we become more of a social country. We'll become a socialist country.
How dare we?
I know. So at one point, she's going for job interviews. She's trying to get through it. And at the one, you know, she's interviewing, and it's like she tries hard, and you know, and the one guy, she tells him that she does, you know, he says, well, what do you want to do, you know? And she's like, well, I really like manga. And he's like,
and she's doing an interview at a bakery. She had worked part-time at a bakery as well as a cashier.
And she said they were real nice, but they're like, you know, what do you want to do? Because I don't think this is really what you want to do.
And she starts talking about manga, and her eyes light up.
Yeah. And so he says, you know, well, thanks. Maybe you should try that. And he meant it too, because he actually went to the door and looked out after her and said, hey, you know, good luck with your manga there. You know,
well, because I mean, when you can see somebody's face light up when they start talking about what they're passionate about.
Yep.
I mean, how can you not encourage that?
But she went through a lot of things. It was tough for her to draw, and a lot of things didn't work. And the other thing is her problem with her parents. She had this inner. She wanted to be loved and appreciated and by her parents, especially her mother.
Mhm.
At the same time, she wanted to be independent and she wanted to move out. And this was an inner struggle with her that went on for both books.
I really like the analogy that she made with independence
Hmm.
and the balloons. When you think of independence, I think most people, I do too. When you think of independence, you think of you're doing it all on your own. And really, what independence is having that circle, and she uses balloons, having this group of balloons that are all doing small parts to help lift you up
Hmm.
and keep you independent, right? You've got your parents, you've got your family, you've got your friends, you've got your coworkers, you got all these people, and they are all supporting you in a way that helps you to be independent. If you are relying all of your putting all of your weight on one balloon, your independence is not going to happen because it's too much for one person to lift you up in that way.
Hmm.
And I really like that analogy. It wasn't something I'd seen out like that before, because that's what I think of independence, is you can do it all by yourself, and that's really not.
No, independence is. There are people that can do. There's people that can do anything, but
Well,
there are
yeah,
some people that can just go and they're independent. But there are
but
people
I
that
don't.
need that boost to get to a point to where they might be completely independent, or maybe you always rely on
I
somebody.
don't think that the people, I don't think that, see, I think that, again, the way that you're viewing the independence isn't the same. I think that maybe you don't see their support system. I don't know
Her
that
parents'
anybody who
support
is, no,
system.
no, not her.
Oh,
I'm talking about the people that you say can just do it all on their own. I don't think, if you
oh,
see
you're
somebody
right. Okay.
who is independent and successful and doing all the things, they have a support system, and it might
Yeah.
not be in the same way that you or I view a support system. Maybe their support system is their professional staff and their therapy, doctors, whatever, people that are supporting them. And maybe you don't see that, but that's how they are able to be independent, because I don't think that anybody can do it all on their own and not depend on a single person.
You're 100% right on that. And it's also something that I've read quite a bit about before everything was happening here. There was talk online about people, writers and comic creators who, especially writers, who have a successful career, but that's all they do. That's their full time job. And a lot of them, their spouse works full time, and that's why they're able to do this job full time. Where other people are like, I have to work a full time job, and I do comics on the weekends or at
Hmm.
night. How do you do this? And they're like, oh, I'm able to do this. And it's like, no, you're not able to do this. You're able to do this because your husband makes $100,000 a year, or your wife is a lawyer. And they're able to work full time and do that while you're able to sit home and do your craft. And there's nothing wrong with that, but this is a support system that you're talking about. It's the
Mm.
same thing. These are adults, but
But my point is that they have more than a support system too. I mean, I assume if they have children, then they are doing full-time comics, they probably aren't also watching their kids, because
yeah,
taking
yeah,
care of children is a full-time job.
yes,
And so let's say that's imaginary imaginary comic book artist that you're talking about
hmm,
is working full-time, and they have a partner who is outside of the home working full-time,
hmm.
and then they have children. These children are in a daycare or being watched by a family member. That's another
Or
support
they're in
system. Or
school,
they're
and
right, or they're in school, where that's another support system. They have these other places that are showing them support, and in the same way, and this person, I'm gonna assume,
hmm,
again, is not, if they are successfully independent, they have friendships, they have
hmm,
maybe other partners, maybe they have therapy that they're
hmm,
going to every week.
yeah,
So
yeah.
if you are truly independent, I think that you have a nice balance of support behind you. I don't know that I
And this is something that Nagata, we should say that's not her real name. She used a pen name,
it doesn't matter.
but Well, no, that's the name. We don't know who she really is. She's hidden.
But she's not either. I mean, I would probably want to put this under a pen name if I was writing about visiting a sex worker and coming out as a lesbian.
We didn't even get to that part yet. I mean, there's a lot going on.
You're right. I don't think we.
But what happens is, she decides that she realizes that she just thinks that she just needs a hug. She just needs to touch other people.
Yeah, it shows her with another job as a like one of those furry.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, like a mascot.
A mascot, yeah.
And kids are coming up and hugging her,
mm-hmm.
and it doesn't give her that same feeling that she wants. Right?
Yeah, she goes, maybe because it was through the costume. This is what I've been dreaming of, but it's not.
Because at one point she's searching Twitter for free hugs.
Mm-hmm. And then she used to go for massages a lot, and having my back touched did make me feel calm and happy. But it's still not the same. That's not what it is. So anyway, she goes on a dating app, and is it a dating app?
No.
Oh, she goes on to
an escort service.
An escort service.
Escort website.
Yep. And here's the thing. She's looking at. Here's exactly the thing. She's looking at. I was more sexually interested in women's bodies than men. Male body. He sure is naked. Female body. Saving this. So it's like, yeah, she knew what she wanted, but she wasn't sure what she wanted really. So anyhow, she hires a sex worker.
Escort.
I believe I was going to say an escort, but anyhow, and they went to a love hotel, which is exactly that. It's here it would be considered, a dirty, immoral little motel, dumpy place that you can rent by the hour, but that's exactly what these are,
and they're meant for that.
They're meant for that. People, because they know that people just need this shit, whether they're single, married, whatever the fuck they're doing.
But then they still have a way to make it seem shitty too. Like she talks about being an amateur virgin, because virginity is just a social construct, right? Mm-hmm. And so she's an amateur virgin because she's only had sex with sex workers.
Oh, she calls herself that?
No, that's what she's known as. She found it online that is how she was, and that's how she was. Okay. That's how she's like, oh, I guess that's me, and that's what I'll be forever because. Mm-hmm. So, which I thought was really shitty. Oh, and the other. Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It just on the virginity line. Mm-hmm. She meets the first sex worker. She's nervous, of course, mm-hmm. And she lets her know that it's her first time ever. And so this sex worker goes in search of her hymen.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, she's like, have you stuck anything in here before? And she's like, no. And she's like, I can't find it. Like, not everybody has a hymen. Yeah, that doesn't, like, it's not a thing. And I mean, and then you think of, that made me think immediately of these doctors who, like that doctor in, where was it? Somewhere in the States, who took his daughter in to make sure that her hymen was intact every year.
It wasn't a doctor. He was a rapper.
He took her to a doctor, mm-hmm. but the doctor should have just said that hymen's not a thing.
Up until she's 18, and she would allow this.
Oh, don't say she would allow it.
Did she have a choice?
No, she did not. She didn't have a choice.
At 18?
No, she didn't have a choice. Mm. He had the power over her.
Yeah.
If he says,
and he was called out too.
If he says,
but his wife was okay with it too, because she was probably powerless too.
Probably.
Okay. All right. So anyhow, at one point she's like, I don't have to feel guilty about this. It's my life. I'm a grown up. The me who wanted to please my parents threatened to take back control if I wasn't careful. She's fighting in her inner demons that I should be able to do this because I'm a grown up, but my parents would not like this, and going back and forth and in her head. And I mean, it's, she met this.
Sorry.
Did you really need to find your phone right now?
No, I was trying to silence it. I forgot which button silenced.
That wasn't the right one. Anyhow, so the sex worker, does what a sex worker does, and it did nothing for her. She it was not the pleasure she thought it would be.
Well, because I mean, at least again, I assume
it was her first time.
It was her first time,
one.
but also like she didn't, and she talks about it too. Like sex isn't just something that's done to you; it's something it takes communication.
Yes.
And she was nervous and anxious, and putting so much pressure onto this moment that it was supposed to feel this one certain way, and it didn't. And so then that just built it up that much more. And so the letdown was so much greater.
Right. Well, so then she,
because when you have anxiety and depression, the buildup is always so much more significant than the moment. It's not something that you can easily brush off. You're always your mind is always building up these moments in your brain,
and they don't go away for you.
No, they don't.
So as we get near the end of book 1, My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness, we find out that Nagata has been publishing their story online, and they decide to hire another sex worker too. So she meets a sex worker, and she's like, did the staff tell you anything about me? And she's like, no, I haven't heard anything. Oh, then it's fine. Please forget it. What is it? They didn't tell her. Oh, are you that manga person? And she's like, I should have kept my mouth shut. And then she's got foot, meat, mouth. And it's the whole book is very manga. I love, she's very, the scenes are very exaggerated a lot of times, facial expressions. And a big thing, like she's got, like where she's got a bald spot she's talking about, and bald spot is in giant, bold, like brick letters. It looks
she has a bald spot from a hair pulling disorder.
Yeah. But I mean, so there's all this stuff, and it's just a 2-color book. It's just pink and black, and white, of course.
Why white, of course?
Well, because it's on white paper, so white is part of the color. But so she's like, well, I shouldn't have said anything. And she says, well, you said anything, and that's the only thing it could be, right? But so, and of course, this one didn't go exactly like she wanted either. She decided the worker bathed her, and she was like stiff as a brick. She couldn't move. None of this is what she really wants. She hasn't figured out what.
Well, nothing is fitting her expectations. Yes. And I did really love the way that she drew her feelings and emotions. Everything was literal. Like there's there's pieces of me missing, and she has a drawing of her with literal holes in her body. Yep. Because that's what it feels like. Yep. And I really did enjoy her artwork a lot. I think she put a lot of emotion into her drawings, and it's
yep.
It's really clear how she's feeling.
Oh, and she realizes later on, she's like, I didn't hug her, not even once. And that was one of the things.
That's one thing she loves.
Yeah. And she realizes she was so in the moment and so scared and stiff, and didn't even do that. And then, as you mentioned earlier, she writes, every time I see the words amateur version, it's a shot to the heart.
Yeah.
And that's someone whose only sexual experience is with sex workers. It looks like this is still my life for now, and I'll keep living it. So the second book is My Solo Exchange Diary. And in this book, this one is a lot about her and her relationship with her parents. And it's with her parents and herself.
A big part of this is figuring out how to finally move out.
Oh, yeah. Moving out. And the big thing with her parents, too, is now her book has been published. And now people know about it, and they know about her.
But she's bold, though. She gets a proof copy, or was it her first box of proof copies, but her first copies, and she takes it right over and puts it and gives it to her, puts it on the doorstep, or not the doorstep, the table or whatever inside the house, and she she it's not like she tries to hide it from her. I mean, she does talk about hiding it from her parents when she's posting it online and stuff, but then she's just like, nope, I'm just going to put it out there. I'm just going to let it happen.
But they, especially her mother, she wasn't overly supportive.
No, she does, and she does talk about the shame
of talking about her being a lesbian and things like that.
But she doesn't even say what the shame is.
Oh, just that she shamed the family, period, by talking about
which
them,
in Japan is a big deal. But yes, it's just the family shame is what she said
Mhm.
in a text message. And yeah, she doesn't talk about what part of it is shameful. Is it the paying a sex worker? Is it being a lesbian? Is
Mhm.
it the things that she talks about in the first book, talking about her obsession with her mother, and needing to be close to her and touching her at all times.
Mhm.
And I mean, she talks about watching her mother undress as a
Mhm.
child. So I mean, I can't even imagine what part of it was the most shameful. I
Right,
mean, maybe it
right.
was just all of it, I guess.
So in this book, each chapter is a diary entry, basically. And it's like entry number 1. And she says, "My name is nice to meet you. My name is Nagata Kabi. Nice to meet you."
She's,
And
yes, writing to her future self.
yeah, so each one is about something that that she's having a problem with.
Things she's
She,
realized about herself too.
yeah, like here, I want to use my savings for jealousy and lawning, and then that goes over to, and she does a lot of these like circular things, drawings, like this goes to this to this to this,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and the jealousy and lawning, how the jealousy and lawning have been fermenting for years, and something finally burst. It's okay to have fun with someone else's money, right? I'm going to do it. I'm doing it. And she talks about some of the money that she made, and she wanted to spend some of it on herself and things like that.
That's the other thing too. Or sorry, going back to the shame, my brain.
Mhm.
She talks about having an eating disorder. She talks about getting fired repeatedly.
Mhm.
She
Oh,
talks
yeah.
about not being able, going
Yeah.
on 20, like
Yeah, a lot of
there's a
different
lot of
things.
things that
Mhm.
that are just deep emotional things that she has just put out there for the world to see, and it's so god fuck brave.
Yep.
It's so brave, and I mean, I want to hug her, honestly.
Yep. So she meets with some friends that she hasn't seen in a long time.
Hmm.
She goes out and she has a good time. She realizes that that it's good to get out and see people again. But again, here's this one thing where you're talking about. It's like I felt like I was made of holes, and the picture of her is like
Hmm.
Swiss cheesed,
Yeah.
and it's really cool. But you get the gist of what she's showing you there. And then she hires another sex worker, and she just wants to be hugged and everything, and it's still not what she expected.
And she talks about it too, like the difference between being in a relationship and having sex, and being with a sex worker. um she talks about how the level of intimacy grows over time with somebody that you're in a relationship with, because you learn more about each other, and you learn what each other like with time. Whereas with a sex worker, you have to be able to say this. You got 70 minutes, I think, was the one. You have
Oh,
to
yeah.
say, this is what I like, this is what I want done.
And do it now and get it
If
done. Yeah.
right.
Hmm.
um and or even you have to give them direct. You have to communicate. Communication is key. And I think that I mean, in any, I think, sexual encounter, communication is key. But she and I think she knows this, but telling your brain to do the thing that you need it to do when you
Hmm.
have depression and
Hmm.
anxiety, and it's just not, it doesn't come out that way. So I want to enjoy this, um and then you get so caught up in the fact that you're not currently enjoying this. It's really hard to live in that moment, and then putting on top of it the fact that you need to be able to communicate effectively, and have that deep communication is just makes it that much more difficult.
Well, and then I think, doesn't she find out that she tries to talk to her mother, and finds out that her mother and her father never really communicate well. There's something with that.
I something about that.
Yeah,
I can't remember, but
but
I know that it sounds like the father, and then you find out in the
the
second book
grandmother lives there
that the
too.
mother-in-law, the
Yeah.
father's mother,
Hmm.
also lives there, and and does not treat the
Yeah, yeah,
mother
yeah.
nice at all.
Yeah.
And so the mother has spent her whole life, or her adult life, um,
Just
constant with
catering. Yeah.
yes, yes, and constantly being essentially attacked. I don't think, it doesn't sound like it was an abusive,
Right.
at
But
least not
never,
physically abusive
it's not
relationship, but it did sound like he was not the kindest partner, and kind of let his mother walk all over his wife.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so she moves into an apartment more than once in this book too.
Yeah, that was interesting. She found an
finds-
apartment that was like a few weeks or something, right? It was just like a half a month or something.
She was able to get out of it. I think that's what it was. She was able to get out of it after being in there a short time. She realized she couldn't live on her own yet, and she was able to get out of it and get her money back.
It meant, when I was reading it, it
Yeah.
made it sound like she had rented it just for like 2 weeks. Like her plan was just to go away for the holidays or whatever.
Yep. And when she's like, when she applied for this one place, she's like, I'm filling out the application. She goes, I'm so uninterested in my parents, although she craves for their approval,
Right.
especially her mother. But I'm so uninterested in my parents. The only thing I know about him, her father, is his name.
Yes, because she's filling out applications.
And she doesn't know anything about him. She doesn't even know where he works or what his date of birth is or anything. She's just like, everything is just wait.
And I think part of that is probably also, again, assumption that a lot of times when you have anxiety and depression and the mental illness that she's battling, your memory doesn't work. Your memory is, especially, that's a trauma response, is that your short-term memory is gone. So I think that part of that too might not be that she doesn't care about what his job is, but that keeping something like that in your brain when you have, I mean, look at the her daily life in this book. It's her brain is filled with all this,
while
stuff,
she's trying to create at the same time too.
Right. And trying to do that. So keeping information like that in your head, and being able to write it down when it's needed on the spot, I wouldn't think about necessarily what information might be needed. In that case, I wouldn't know that I would need my dad's information. I mean, I get it.
Well, and
because he's her financial.
Right. And so what she's going through it during this is it's all this. She's like, I feel lonelier with dad than when I'm alone. She tells this to her mother, and her mother goes, I know what you mean. And she's like, that's what she said. I know what you mean. Yeah. So the mother is alone in this house, even though she's got other people in it. So she's just as alone, but she doesn't have the same type of depression that wears on her.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's just all.
And again, it's possible those balloons. We'll go back to the balloons again. It's possible she has friends that she talks to about it. It's possible that she has other ways that she's coping with the loneliness that her daughter doesn't have.
And again, here's a couple of these circular things. One says, get a job. Well, it says, interview, get a job, quit right away. Interview, get a job, quit right away. Another one, I'm off to the interview. You can do it. I got the job. Congrats. That's great. I quit right away. And then again, and it's just this cycle that she keeps going through.
And all she sees is her parents disapproving. And I think a lot of that is just that her parents don't get it. I mean, I feel that too. I have always wanted my parents' approval, and it's taken a lot for me to step away, and my parents and my brother too, honestly, to step away and say that their opinions of what I'm doing with my life don't matter. I mean, obviously, I love my family, and I believe that they will be supportive, no matter what. But getting that out of your head, like, they don't understand the level to, like, I didn't speak to what, as a child, I was going through, because I didn't think that they would get it. I knew that they wouldn't get it, because I would say things to them. I have a stomach ache. I remember every day crying before going to school. I remember crying, and not just crying, sobbing, because I didn't want to go to school. there was nothing happening to me at school that was making it, I wasn't being bullied in that moment that I was terrified to go to school, but I had physical pain in my body and I couldn't, but my parents were just like, well, then we have to, you have to go to the doctor or you have to go to school. Those are your options.
Yeah.
And I couldn't explain to them what it was. My parents hadn't dealt
with depression,
anxiety, any of that. So they had no clue.
Yeah.
And so when I was finally an adult and started to come out about having anxiety, and my mom's like, was it my fault? Did I do that to you? And it's like, no, it's been here a very, very long time. It's not about you.
Yeah, but at least your mother asked that. When I confronted my mother and told her it was her fault that I never wanted to leave Buffalo, she turned it around on me. Oh yeah, like I forced you, I held you down, and I couldn't. I made you stay here. I'm like, no, that's not how it works.
Which is so interesting too, because she had those parental messages in her head too about the way she needed to live her life, and followed them a lot, and continue to push them. That intergenerational trauma onto her children as well.
You speak so much better than me, but go ahead. Go ahead. I write really well. My speaking is not always the same.
Good.
I write good. I speak bad.
are smart.
But yeah, no. You said that. You said that very well. That's exactly what I thought. But you said it better. But yeah, so I mean, in the book, I mean, there's a lot of this stuff. She wants to move out multiple times, and one time she's home again. And she's working because she has to work on her manga. And her mother's like, "You're ever going to show us your work?" And she's like, "What are you working on?" "Yeah, I'm doing stuff. I'm just drawing for myself, So then finally she gets to the point where she runs a poll on Twitter, and the majority voted that I not show my parents the manga I was working on.
Yeah,
68%.
No.
Well, 22%. Show them absolutely nothing, but 68% were other. So
yeah, I was like, what?
There must have been like 15 different things. 1,100 votes, so it wasn't just a couple people.
Right.
But yeah, 22%, and the other two were only single
which was
digits.
the majority. So the 68% of others were, like you said, there's like 15 other things or whatever that was like obviously under 22%.
Yeah. But so, I mean, and eventually,
what could be the other? That's what I was trying to think of, which is not the point of it at all. But what were the other suggestions?
She wanted to show them, though. She wanted their approval. She wanted them to say, "Hey, look what the fuck I did. Yeah. I did this. This book is mine.
Yeah.
It's about me. Look what I did." Yeah. And people like it. People talk to me on the internet.
Yeah.
But she couldn't do it. It was so hard for her.
Well, and especially when you're living under the same roof with them too, right? Like when she finally does show them her book, she doesn't live there anymore. She doesn't have to worry about
exactly. I wanted my mom to say I was good just the way I was. I wanted her to love me no matter what I did. But ever since I'd realized that she really wasn't like that, that lingering sense of danger had been slamming on my brakes. So that's what it was. It's like, I want my mom to love me. I want to show her this. It's like, nope, fuck, I can't show her. Can't show her because
there's a risk.
She's going to be disappointed in me again.
Yeah. And that's her mother's response when she finally does find out is that and she calls her the family shame.
Yeah. Yeah. And she has all these things. My abusive words, pathetic. I wouldn't have anything to do with her if she wasn't my mother. I'm embarrassed wherever she shows up.
So she says things about her mom too.
Yes, because it's a cyclical thing. She's thinking about her mother because she knows the way her mother treats her.
Right.
So it's anyhow. And the book just goes through this, and she finally does. She gets an apartment. Everything starts to click. She starts to take care of things and take care of herself. And that was something too. She didn't take care of herself. She wouldn't bathe or anything. Yeah, the depression aspect of it.
And that's a part I think a lot of people don't understand. Unless you've been there, you don't know when you tell somebody with depression to just get up and do it. It's like, the brain doesn't work that way. Yeah. If it was so simple to just get up and take a shower, I would do it. It's not that easy. It's not that easy. And if you think that it is, you've never experienced depression before.
Yeah. And then when her book comes out and she's having their book launch and everything, she's like, she doesn't know what to measure herself against. She doesn't have any measuring stick, she calls it,
Oh my God, I loved this.
I have no personal measuring stick.
I loved this so much.
Yeah. She goes, no matter how hard I try, I think that being this concerned with what other people think of me comes from the same place as me not being able to value myself.
Yep.
And so she measures herself differently. She's like someone without that, and that's part of the I forget what it is, but a lot of creators, writers, artists, everything, they feel that they don't belong. Like they might be fantastic at what they do, and people love what they do, but they're like, I don't belong here. This isn't, I'm not part of this community. And people are like, yeah, you are. You're great at what you do. But people in their head, they're like, no, I don't really belong there. And she's trying to look at this. She's like, she's looking at somebody that's a 6, but when she looks at them, even though she's a 10, she's looking at herself as less than the other person.
Right.
And she's like, isn't this that thing where I'm hyper aware of other people, compare myself to them, and then get jealous? It's that jealousy thing. Because I don't have my own measuring stick. I couldn't be happy about my book launch and its positive reception, but that would have made me happy if I'd had my own measuring stick. And then I measure myself with my parents' measuring stick and waited for them to assign me a value, assign my value.
Yeah.
And they never did. They wouldn't give her a value. And when they did, it was a negative one. It wasn't something that she wanted.
Yeah.
Her self-esteem was so low that nothing worked.
Yeah, I really love that measuring stick.
And it was literally like a
analogy.
ruler.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think I see that a lot in the parenting community too. Because when you're raising your kids, there's no guidebook, right? There's not. I mean, sure, there's lots of parenting.
And we
books
think
out
that
there,
we're going to do it right too, and we
one.
make so many mistakes. And I don't know how. When we read all this stuff and we see everything, and
you're gonna fuck up no matter what. But
it's horrible.
But point being, when you see your children, you cannot compare them to other children because everybody is on their own path.
Yeah.
And it's really hard because you get into this. Yeah, you get into this. Absolutely. That's my point.
Yeah.
You get into this mindset that especially like when you're bringing in your baby every month or 6 months, or every 3 months, I think really in the beginning, you're weighing them. They do height, weight, or length technically,
measure their
and
brain,
then their
skull,
head circumference, and it's all in comparison with other people. You get a percentile, and parents a lot of times freak out because my baby is in the 99th percentile for weight, meaning that 99% of babies are smaller than them, and so
or vice versa, or bigger than them. 99% of the babies are bigger than them. The opposite way, they're in the 1%.
Okay, I'm talking about the 99th percentile right now.
Okay, go ahead.
Babies in 99th percentile. Am I feeding them too much?
Oh, okay, right.
Am I, what am I doing wrong? And it's like, no, your baby is on their percentile. You don't worry about the other percentiles. You worry about that they stay on that trajectory. You don't worry about it. It tells you where you are in reference to other people, but that's still yours or theirs.
Yeah, but it's a tough thing though, because you look at it, especially with one of our children that was smaller.
Both of our children were
at the beginning,
percentiles.
Yes, and they're like, oh, and then when you see it in your chart is only going up a little bit, and they're like, oh, are you feeding them enough? What do you do? So then you start to second guess everything you're doing too.
Absolutely, the exact same in the opposite way. Am I starving my baby? Am I, and it's you can't look at if you have a 1 percentile baby, you want your baby to stay on that 1 percentile. You don't want them to jump up to 99 because then there's a problem. Then you're overfeeding your child. They're not on their trajectory. And that's really hard for parents to understand. And then you're constantly comparing because, especially with infants, they should meet this milestone by this time and this milestone by this time and this milestone by this time. And it's, if my baby's not walking by this time, now we need to, worry. And certainly there's times when you need to seek, help. But doing it online is not the best way to go.
No.
If you're worried about something with your child's health, then, reach out to the doctor and then, whatever, but, or therapist or whatever it is. Anyway, But yes, so and then you find that through growing up too, especially like our littlest has a friend who is my friend whose child is only 2 weeks older, and I would see them together, and most of the time it would make me feel really good about our youngest height and weight and everything because they were very similar in size, whereas I was always worrying that our youngest was too small. So then I see this their friend, and they're right about the same height, and they're talking about the same, and all those things, all the things that you worry about when you have children growing up. And then suddenly we saw them after it had been a while, really only a few months, and suddenly my friend's kid had shot up like 6 inches, it seemed like. And I'm like, oh my God, our baby is shrinking. Like, I didn't think about the fact that they had a growth spurt and were 4 years old and suddenly wearing 6-year-old clothing size. But that's what had happened. So my friend's child had just, had a growth spurt, a huge growth spurt. And my child hadn't, which was, again, totally normal. Every child grows on their own. But it immediately put me into that spiral of worrying about my kid not growing. And it's like, it's so hard to talk yourself out of those spirals sometimes. And we saw that a lot throughout the book, is that she, tried really hard to, and you could see it, she knew what was going on. She knew what was happening.
Yes.
But in the moment, there's no way you can talk yourself out of it.
Yeah.
And I, when it comes to mental health, I think that's something that people don't see, because if you're reading this and you have never had any mental health struggles, it's easy to say,
you can,
she's just lazy or whatever. And that's really not the case. If you think that she just was being lazy because she wasn't showering, then you clearly have no idea what the struggle is like, and you need to try and walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, I guess.
Well, so the story ends up with her actually getting a girlfriend finally. Yeah. But that doesn't end the way she expects either.
Yeah, those again goes back to the expectation of what you're going to feel, and then not feeling it.
Yeah. But unfortunately for her, I mean, she's got several more books out after this.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited to see where her story goes.
Yeah.
I'm excited that she's still writing.
Yeah.
It sounds like this is her medium.
Yeah, definitely. Happy Pride Month to everyone. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter. Absolutely. And George Floyd.
Yep. Keep up whatever you can do.
Yes, if you can give money to support Black Lives Matter, please give money to support them. Stand up to your white racist friends and family members, and listen.
Delete them off Facebook.
No, don't delete them. Don't immediately delete them.
Oh, tell them off and then delete them.
Speak to them. Let them know. Let them know that
they're wrong.
That they are standing on the wrong side of history, honestly.
The second president of the Confederacy, hopefully he's going to go down, and hopefully all these Confederate statues are going down. They're going to rename all these fucking military bases from the Confederacy. Let's just keep going. Let's just keep tearing down all this shit.
Let's support our black siblings and help give them the voice that they need.
All right. Until next week, my name is Mike.
And I'm Parker.
And this is the
Graphic Novel Podcast.